we'll give folks a few seconds to come on, and Tristan's here. Wonderful. Hi, Tristan. So we'll get started with intros and some ground rules. So hello, DBT community. We're coming at you live today. My name is Amada, and I'm a community development program manager on the community team at DBT Labs, and I'm joined by Tristan Handy, CEO and founder of DBT Labs. Tristan, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, great to be here.
So just a quick intro for those of you who may not know him yet. Tristan is the founder and CEO here at DBT Labs. We're an emerging leader in the data transformation space, used by 25,000 companies, including JetBlue, HubSpot, Dunelm, and Sunrun. And Tristan has over 2 decades of experience as a data practitioner, working in both large enterprises and startups. His expertise and data industry best practices have influenced thousands of subscribers and listeners weekly via his newsletter and podcast covering analytics engineering. So we're all here today for our monthly live Ask Me Anything event series. This is our 3rd AMA, and this is a chance for folks to connect and learn together and for you to get your burning questions answered. We've taken questions in advance on Slido, and we'll also be taking a few live from Slack as well if we have time. And if we don't have time to get to your question, don't worry. Tristan will do his best to reply in Slack after the AMA. He'll be hanging out in the channel, lucky for us. And so there's no specific topic today. We're having a casual discussion on things like future of analytics engineering, the future of the analytics engineering workflow, where the ecosystem is currently stuck and needs a kick, and AI and its impact on the analytics workflow. And we'll be hearing your thoughts and questions. Tristan will also be touching on his journey in the data industry. And a last bit of housekeeping: for conversation with your fellow community members and to ask additional questions, please use the Slack channel called DBT Community Merge. That's where we are today. And even though we're having a pretty open conversation, just to clarify and keep us within scope, we won't be helping folks troubleshoot any DBT instances today. So for help troubleshooting, please post in a relevant channel in DBT Slack or reach out to DBT Cloud Support if you are a customer. And so like I said, and I'll just repeat myself for anyone who just tuned in, I'm Amada from the community team at DBT Labs, and I'm joined by Tristan Handy, our CEO and founder. So let's get started with our first question. Alrighty, ready, Tristan?
I'm ready. Let's do it. My goal over the next 58 minutes is to make you both laugh and feel embarrassed. Those are my goals. Don't laugh right now, because then that'll be too easy. It's too easy.
All right, too easy. So all right, let's get started. So obviously we know a lot of your time revolves around working in data, of course, but just to get to know you a bit, what do you enjoy doing most when not working in data?
Oh, geez. Do you want to like really get into it? I haven't had. I've failed at having hobbies for like 20 years. Like many people, I got into work after undergrad, and it became like all absorbing. I worked too much, as I think many of us do, and I did the minimum things that one needs to do in life outside of work. I got married and had kids and that kind of stuff. But the idea of having a hobby was not a thing. And so over the past year, I've decided that hobbyless streak had to end. I've gotten into sailing, not Larry Ellison type of sailing, but Maryland Eastern Shore. I live in Philadelphia, Maryland Eastern Shore type sailing, which is the older the boat and the shittier, the better. So I just bought a 22-foot sailboat that was built in 1977. And I am fixing it up. And I hope in the next couple of weeks, I will float it for the first time.
Wow.
I will be sure to let everyone here know if it floats or if it ends up on the bottom of the Chesapeake Bay. But it's been a lot of fun to get my head into something new.
Great, amazing. Didn't expect that. So in the next few weeks, you'll be getting questions in Slack saying float or sail or sink, and people will be tagging
you.
Yep. Great. So Would love to know what's changed in how you keep up with the data industry over the years and what's stayed the same. Of course, there's a lot going on. It's hard to keep up.
Wait, is this a question about what's going on in the data industry or how I keep up with it?
I think it can be two-pronged, but I feel that the intent this person had was kind of how you keep up with it, maybe because changes are accelerating, it's different.
Okay, because the answer to the question, what's changed in the data industry, is like way too, I couldn't possibly answer that in any kind of short amount of time. Nobody asked me like my advice, my like career advice, and far be it for me to like give career advice, but I'm going to for a second. If you're early in your career, one of the most important things that I ever did was invest in my ability to consume massive quantities of news in whatever industry that I happen to be in at a given time. And I developed this like whole tooling workflow that goes from like email newsletters and automated filter criteria, and that goes to and feed reader, and then it goes to Pocket, and it goes to Pocket on my phone, and then it's like reading in bed before I go to sleep. There's like a whole workflow, honestly, where like during I think the like most heated moments of change in the data stack, I was like literally reading. I was reading at least the headline of like appreciably everything that was written in our space from like let's say 2015 through 21, something like that. Wow. And it's not to say that I read every article or that I like when I skimmed an article I read every single word, anything like that. But like you can actually develop a workflow where like every headline in your entire industry, like you get to read. And I think that that is so incredibly important if you care about tuning like your beliefs about what is happening in your industry and like how you should shape your own career around it. I will say that same strategy will not work with AI, because AI has just like jumped the shark into like mainstream media. And so like even at the height of like big data, nobody was on the New York Times was like covering BigQuery release notes. Like that was not a thing. And so my system worked for that era. And like for AI, I'm much more like small numbers of trusted sources and like social networks to like surface things going on that are relevant in the space.
Gotcha. Yeah,
if that wasn't too much.
No, it makes sense. There's so much to cover, and obviously you don't have a lot of time. So I believe that you have a whole system. Thank you. So we also want to know, what are you most looking forward to at Coalesce this year? What should we be expecting? And before you answer, I just want to give a quick announcement for folks. If you haven't registered for Coalesce yet, we do have a code for you. It's amazing in capital letters, and you can use it within the next 48 hours when you buy a paid ticket for Coalesce, the IRL one. And when you do that, you'll receive a $70 swag store credit. And so this is only available for the next 48 hours. Please join us at Coalesce. We can't wait to see you rocking your swag. And so, yeah, Tristan, what are you most looking forward to, and what should we be expecting?
The hard thing about Coalesce this year, and I'm sure that many companies experience this, so we're not alone in this, but the hard thing is the editorial question, which is, it turns out that there are actually 71 distinct things that are going to be ready for customers in some part of the workflow, whether it's beta or preview or GA, but 71 distinct things. And the question is, how do we focus people's attention? We as I'm sure everybody here has experienced when you go to a conference, there's only certain moments where like everyone is together and you get to have these big announcements. And so you have to like decide how to focus people's attention. And there's like truly a lot of stuff coming out, and I'm excited about a lot of it. So I can't just get up on stage and mow through 71 different announcements. I think that that's like not an effective way to use everyone's time. I think if there's like one single thing that I am very excited about in the storyline that's coming together around this, is that DBT has always been about an understanding of workflows and about personas. And the like original DBT vision had data analysts and this new at the time role, analytics engineer, participating in a workflow that previously had only been something that data engineers could do. And so it was very locked up. And increasingly, we are hearing from our customers that they want to grow the set of humans in their organizations that can participate in the DBT workflow. And that requires new tooling for them. And so we announced and gave a short demo of the visual editor back in May. But this story around having more and more humans in an organization participate in the DBT workflow, and the like maturity of how one creates and disseminates quantitative knowledge through the DBT workflow is I think probably the storyline that I am most excited about. I created this entire organization with the mission to create and disseminate organizational knowledge, and I want as many people as possible to be able to participate in that workflow. So this is exciting to me.
Thank you. That was a much even deeper answer than I expected. And does it feel like, is this the coalesce where we have the most to announce compared to previous coalesces?
I think so, yeah. And that's probably not that surprising. We've our platform is more mature. We've over the years solved a lot more of the kind of initial set of challenges that you have to solve when you're building a cloud product. We've solved a lot of the connectivity and integrations and scale and architecture, all these things. Like, we're at a much more stable place, and so it creates an environment where we can really focus on iterating on customer-facing features with more and more of our team, and so that results in us shipping a lot of things that directly impact customers.
Yes, gotcha. Thank you. Definitely makes sense. So I want to pivot slightly in a different direction. So we have a question from Michael. Michael asks, will DBT Docs and DBT Core get more features in the near future, especially the exposures? Yes or no?
DBT Docs, the short answer is probably not. We are committed to maintaining DBT Docs such that as we continue to invest more in DBT Core, that Docs stays up to date and supports its new features, supports new features from Core. Docs was originally released in an era, so it was specifically released in 2018. It was an era that we did not, as a company, make cloud software, like, at all. And it was because we, as users of DBT, needed a lightweight way to visualize the DAG that we were. So I don't know if anyone's ever had this experience in working with DBT DAGs, but before Docs existed, I would have to actually, in order to work on a specific thing, I would have to draw on a piece of paper the nodes in the DAG, in just the area that I was working on, because it it was too complicated to like maintain the graph in my head. And so I'd be like, I would click on a file. I'd be like, where are the refs to? I'd draw it on a piece of paper. I'd like go through 10 different files. I'd draw the graph. It was terrible. And so we were just like, we need some answer to this question. And Drew, my co-founder, hacked together DBT Docs in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And it's been incredibly widely used, like very, very widely used, because nobody wants to go and draw circles and lines on a piece of paper. That said, it's not a mature piece of software, and it is not the way that one would build this type of functionality if what you wanted to do was see it become the fullest version of itself. Mm-hmm. And so what it needs in order to actually be good is it needs state. And one of the biggest things that we use to separate DBT core from cloud is state. Is there a database that maintains state across different user sessions that can like do things while users are not actually in front of it, this kind of stuff. And so we rebuilt DBT Docs as a stateful service inside of DBT Cloud. We call it DBT Explorer. One of the wonderful things about DBT Explorer is that it is available for free forever as a part of the DBT Cloud developer tier. And so this is not about, there was a thing that we were giving away for free that now we're making you pay money for. It is about the architecture that was used to deliver DBT Docs was totally appropriate in 2018 and is just like not appropriate as a way to keep this thing moving forwards. So Explorer is awesome, like literally adds hundreds of new users every single week. It's like probably the most widely used and beloved new feature that we've launched in the past year. So if you haven't used it, I highly encourage you to check it out. We are shipping features inside of Explorer like very, very quickly.
Wow, okay, thank you. Yeah, that was a thoughtful answer. Thank you so much. So next one from the community, what was the turning point to change one of the fundamental points of view of DBT and start developing a no-code UI? So it sounds like, when did you know, okay, we need to build a no-code UI? What drove that shift?
So this has been such an interesting experience for me over the past, I don't know, whatever it's been since May. What has it been, 3 months, two and a half months, something. We've gotten this question a lot, like, oh, you're giving up on code. You used to be all about code experiences, and now we're going low code or no code. And it has come across to folks that this is a change. And the funny thing, I can't remember when I wrote this, and I don't expect everyone in the community to read every single freaking analytics engineering roundup that I ever write. So I'm not trying to say like, oh my gosh, I wrote about this in public and you didn't read it. But if you're interested in going back in time and like hearing how we thought about this years ago, I did write an issue of the roundup a couple years ago that talks about what the requirements would have to be for a low code experience in order for it to be good from my perspective, like good in the way that like an analytics engineering workflow can be mature. And the two biggest ones are that it has to write code and it has to read code. And if a visual code editing experience both reads and writes code, then all we're really talking about here is another layer of abstraction. And abstraction is not a problem. We should want to abstract things. We want to, create modularity in our DAGs because it creates clean interfaces that people can plug into and reuse logic. We would do the same thing with macros. if you apply software engineering best practices, you want to create abstraction as much as is appropriate. And in this case, what we're doing is creating a visual abstraction over the code experience,
right,
so that a brand new set of users can like join the party that we're all having.
mm-hmm.
And they don't get to be less than, they get to be on par with the other people that are participating in this workflow. And the way that you do that is you let them interact with all of the other code that everybody else is publishing, because this interface can both read code and write it back to the same repo. And then all of a sudden you get all the maturity that comes from that, like all of the collaboration, the CI/CD and blah, blah, blah. So to me, this is not a change. It is a question of like, when did we as an organization have the necessary, I don't know, capability, like organizational capability to build this thing? Because it's like a meaningful undertaking, along with all of the other things that we're building. And so this was the year where both like we got asked by real users and customers to do this thing, and like the cacophony of those asks like became loud enough. And two, we actually felt like, okay, we've got the team to really execute on this. And so that's how it raised to the surface for us.
Got it. So less why did a shift occur, and it's more, about how we had the capability to do something that was always aligned with like original plans and makes sense for the tool. Yeah.
It would have been a huge change and completely divergent if we were like, you can do the traditional DBT workflow, or you can go over here and have this like kiddie version that doesn't interact with this stuff. But like we're 100% definitely like not doing that. There's one DBT workflow, and both of these are ways to participate in it.
Yeah, that's great. So what are the plans to expand DBT Cloud globally? I also really care about this as we're growing global community programs. And so will the pricing change depending on location is the follow-up question to that.
Oh my gosh. I don't think that we have done that to date. So we have a footprint certainly DBT Core and the DBT community have a footprint globally today. Mm-hmm. And we cannot with like perfect fidelity, but like reasonable fidelity, get a sense of how different geos are trending and this kind of stuff. And so it's like quite active on a global basis from an open source and community perspective. The question is then, when do we focus as a business in quote unquote opening up certain geos? Because there's a real cost benefit analysis to run to say like, well, we're going to be able to operate in a certain location. We're going to have a certain team on the ground there that can operate independently because of time zones, blah, blah, blah. We have a pretty meaningfully sized footprint inside of Europe. And we have a small but quickly growing footprint inside of Australia and New Zealand. We have some small amounts of commercial activity outside of those areas, and obviously North America. But mostly those are the areas that we're focused on today, and we'll expand that over the coming 12 to 24 months. At the moment, I'm not aware of any plans to like significantly have geo-focused pricing, but that could just be that I wasn't in that meeting. So don't take my answer on that as gospel.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And we have a question from Z. Would it make sense for DBT Labs to build something, product or service around data ingestion at some point? And as a follow-up, Z thinks that would help folks simplify the data tech stack even more. Winky face. is what they put.
Winky face is like the most ambiguous emoji in like the entire set of emojis. Well, I will start off by saying that Fivetran, who is a close partner and a company that I think their product is very strong, and I've implemented it many times myself. Fivetran has a data transformation solution that is powered by DBT Core, and at least my understanding of why they originally offered that was that there's a set of people who want to like bundle this stuff together. It's just like easier from a buying perspective to like get all of your ETL stuff together. So I think that there's a certain amount of logic in that. It hasn't been something that we felt like we needed to do to this point to like be commercially successful. You know, I could imagine that some future state might involve us doing that, but there's no, we have no plans to do that at the moment. I do acknowledge that there is an overall push towards consolidation in the ecosystem, and I think that is fundamentally driven by customers. I think that customers really do want to buy fewer things, and they want those things to integrate together better. But when I look at like what are the product experiences that I want to integrate like really, really tightly together, ingestion is actually not like at the very top of my list. I think ingestion actually functions like reasonably well as a standalone thing. It's like, get me my data with a really high SLA, like make it work. And you know, Fivetran's mission, you know, making, I think it's something like make the flow of data like the flow of electricity or something like that, just like very much emphasizes reliability. I think that reflects that like, just like make it work. I think a lot of the stuff in the messy middle is where we started talking about focusing on recently with what we call the data control plane, which is transformation and all of the things that kind of operate in the middle of the stack, including like catalog and observability and orchestration and all this stuff. And building a DBT ecosystem that like all of that stuff works so nicely together such that like when you step into that ecosystem, you just like get the entire experience.
Yeah, makes sense. We actually have a follow-up question for around the no code UI question. So do you think models made in the drag and drop editor will coexist with hand-coded models, or do you think they'll mostly be separate and in downstream projects?
That's a good question. I would have told you one thing a couple of months ago, and then Amada, you hosted a meetup in Minneapolis where I met a gentleman that believed so strongly that the move from more abstract visual editing to, maybe in his opinion, less abstract code editing was actually a step backwards for the ecosystem. And yet he was a like 20 plus year experienced data practitioner. If we gave him this tool tomorrow and said, this is a first class thing, it's ready to go, he would use it. And he would like be on the central data engineering team, building conform dimensions that other, you know, people throughout the organization would like rely on. So I guess I've become less opinionated about like exactly how people want to use this thing. And what I care about is it is a first class experience, a way to build like real production grade DBT models. And from there, we will see how people will use it. But embedded in the product is not any assumption that like the people that use this are, you know, using Duplos instead of Legos or something like that. Like they're somehow incapable of like doing real analytics engineering.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Thank you. So shifting the conversation a bit back to the community, we had a question in Slido that about the community. So it says DBT Labs continues to foster a great global community. What goals and supports do you have for diversity this year and for years to come?
So one of my favorite people at the company is named Finn. They have led our DEI internal and external work for, Finn, I'm going to get this wrong, I think it might be 3 years now. But last year at Coalesce, there was I think it was a Forbes article. You can tell I don't prep for these ahead of time. I think there was a Forbes article that was published about some of the diversity practices that we had incorporated into Coalesce. And it made me so incredibly happy. So I want to acknowledge that we should always be getting better. We have this thing that we say internally, PBNS, pleased but not satisfied. So we should be raising the bar here as we are everywhere else. But I do want to say that I think that we've been pretty strong here with the community over the years. Recently, the thing that we have been focused on externally with the community most is investing in organizations that contribute to diversity in tech and data. We've been partnering with the Carnegie Mellon Database Group and others to help there. We're also very focused on this internally from a bunch of different perspectives. I think that one of the main ways there is internship programs and then building pipeline for recruiting that gives us the ability to hire a very strong and diverse workforce. I don't know, Amada, what do you think? What do you get to see from your seat?
Yeah. I guess from my perspective, the media program, we're constantly, encouraging organizers to, invite diverse speakers and, constantly checking in with them on that. And we prioritize diverse speakers at meetups for sure. And so that's one of the main ways. And I think we'll continue to develop different supports digitally for the digital community, but I'd say that's been my focus. All right, so thank you for that. So staying on the topic of the community, someone asked or stated there's a vibe that DBT Labs has pivoted from OSS to a closed source focus. Why should contributors like me still support DBT instead of SQL Mesh or other competitors?
Now we're getting into it. You ready? So I love talking about OSS, and I love talking about the ecosystem as a whole. The one ground rule that I always have when I'm talking about competitors, I don't, it's a tough word to particularly define, but let's just use it for the moment, is that I never say negative things about competitors. I understand how hard it is to start a company, how hard it is to build technology, how hard it is to build communities. And I think that competition is what keeps all of us on our toes and innovating. Let's talk about open source before we talk about competitors, though. I first became aware of open source in the early 2000s when the place that you went to talk about open source was Slashdot. God, I had to get that out from my mental archive. Slashdot. And this was like in the era that Microsoft was like dominant in like V1 of their dominance. Now, of course, they're again the most valuable company in the world is today. But that was when like Microsoft was kind of thought of as like the evil empire, where they controlled your desktop, they controlled all your productivity software, like blah blah blah, and they were like killing the open source browser, Netscape. And so open source was like this reaction against this, and there was a certain like religiosity and a purist approach to open source then. And then the internet took off, and we, for a long time, did exclusively non-commercial open source, or maybe there was like a little bit of commercial open source with like the kind of Red Hat services, prepackaged software model, but like that was not actually like by and large like super successful. And then there was this group of kind of open source companies from 2010 to 2012, 13, Mongo and Elastic and Databricks was founded in this time period. So like all of these different companies, they came out of an open source project. They became commercial entities. And you can do this for two reasons. You can do this because you see, oh my gosh, I created something really valuable and maybe I can make a ton of money off monetizing this. Or you could do it because you say, look, the way that I built this initial thing is not going to scale in order to continue making it good. And so what I need is I need a way to pay more people to work on this thing. Right. And that is the camp that we fall into. Like, we started out as an organization building a project on the side. It was open sourced. And then there were so many people that used it. They were like, holy shit, we like literally cannot pay for enough software engineers to like work on this thing to support all these users. And that's a terrible outcome for a very vibrant community. And so what you have to do is you have to build a commercial business that works like as a commercial business that at the same time can reinvest in the open source thing and can reinvest it in it at a higher level than you were originally. So when we were fully focused on open source, had no commercial business, had never raised money, we probably had about like between 1 and 2 FTEs invested in writing open source code at any given point in time. We were a consulting company. Like, we couldn't just like randomly have software engineers writing open source code that like nobody was paying us to do. Like, we just couldn't do that. And today we have on any given day somewhere between like 8 and 13 FTEs working on fully open source code. And that's, 4 to 8 times as many humans. And so I'm like very, very happy with the decision that we made to pursue the commercial pathway, because we actually have done the thing that we set out to do, which is like invest more in the open source community. The funny thing is, the reality is often different than the vibes. So yes, as a company, we also have to sell software, because we will lose our ability to be a company if we don't sell software. Like, it turns out when you raise money and you invest it and you have to actually like make a business that is growing and is on track to be profitable, et cetera. So people kind of lose the narrative in the process sometimes. But from my perspective, the narrative is, we created a commercial business so that we can invest more in DBT. We've invested more in DBT. And my goal is to get us to, as a commercial entity, to a place where that ongoing investment is consistently growing. And we as an organization are able to independently like assure that is going to continue to be able to be true. Which, like, the only way you can really do that is to be profitable, right? Then you fully control your own destiny. This is like my thoughts on open source. I feel like very good about how we've navigated this journey. My thoughts on competition, SQL Mesh, SDF, others. My understanding, and I'm totally happy for somebody to tell me that this is not true, but I think that both SQL Mesh and I want to bring SDF into the conversation because I think that they're an even newer and like also very interesting take on like this, like the problem set that DBT solves. Is that they also raised money, and so they have the exact same needs to generate returns as we do, and I have no reason to doubt that their motivations are just as noble as ours are, but there's not like an escaping the need to actually generate revenues and eventually profits. That's like, not to be too pedantic, but like you go to business school, they teach you about, how is it that board members of companies get sued most frequently? And one of the most frequent ways that board members can get sued is the breach of fiduciary duty. And so there's actually like a legal liability on the part of companies and their board members to act in the best interest of their shareholders. So you don't actually have an option as a company that's taken external investment, as we have, as SQL Mesh has, as SDF has, but to like actually make money. So, everyone's playing the same game here. And the question is like, do you believe that we're like trying to do this for the right reasons and building something together? And I hope that we've demonstrated that over the course of many, many years. Like, we're actually here to build a community and make the industry better.
Yeah, thank you so much. And just want to let folks know in terms of, maintaining the community focus and community vibes, and to the previous question as well, fostering, in terms of how we're fostering great global community and supporting diversity, we definitely, of course, welcome feedback. We have an annual survey, and you can always DM me in Slack as well. So if you have ideas on things you want to stand up, or ways that you think we can keep the community vibes going, of course, our team is dedicated to that, but we welcome feedback. So please share, and we definitely want to hear from you. But yeah, thanks so much. That resonates with me. And we have another question from Michael. I believe it looks like it came in real time from Slack, if I'm not mistaken. Are there plans to deploy Power BI or Fabric semantic models from DBT Cloud or DBT Core?
Let me rephrase this question so that I understand it. And Michael, if I am misunderstanding your question, feel free to DM me, and I'm happy to follow up with you. We absolutely do. So one of the things that we thought was going to be true when we initially started investing in the thing that has become known as the semantic layer, it really seemed like this is like back in 2021. It really seemed like the world was in this place where like everything in data was exploding, and all of the old guard was getting wiped off the table, and like, everyone was going to move into this new set of tools. And to a certain extent, like, that has happened. I mean, we're not all using Hadoop today. But I think it happened less in the BI space. You could say that maybe Power BI is actually in the newer set of tools. It's only become nearly this dominant over the past decade. but there has actually been like pretty meaningful consolidation in the BI layer of the stack from what I'm able to tell, as opposed to this like, many flowers shall bloom. So we see a tremendous amount of pull from our customers for Power BI, which is interesting because when we were doing analytics consulting as Fishdown Analytics, like literally never implemented Power BI. No, not a single customer ever asked us to like help them implement Power BI. It was not a big thing back then, but it is really like quickly grown inside of our customer base. And so this is all a long way to say, yes, Power BI is definitely in focus for us. We get asked for it all the time. I don't have anything to share right now in terms of dates or anything like that, but you can trust that like this is something that we're very mindful of.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Michael, for the question. All right. So the topic that everyone expects, and surely we can't have a single event without it. How do you feel that AI is going to impact data analytics processes?
I was like, what's this about to be? Gosh, how do I say something that's like not so mundane that everybody's already said before? I think we are really a long way away from, not forever away, but like a decent amount away from saying like, to your agent, go look at all my marketing metrics, figure out where the problem areas are, and come back with suggestions on what I should do to fix the business. Like, we're a long way from that. That's not to say that it'll never happen. It's just we're like not there. So that's like maybe bounding it up on the upper end. Bounding on the lower end is like, there's shit that is like obviously working today, right? I don't know if anyone saw the demos of DBT Assist that we shared back in May, but like GPT-4 already knows how to write pretty good DBT code. And we've been able to integrate that into the product experience in a way that like really truly does improve developer productivity and, not just like makes people more productive, but like makes you happier. Like, I don't know. I do not really enjoy writing, like somebody mentioned in the chat earlier, just like give me a way to never write YAML files again. And, low code experiences are a way to do that, but also AI is a great way to do that. And so I'm firmly in this middle camp of, so that's the lower end. So there's this upper end of like, it's not just going to run your business for you. And on the lower end, it's like obviously doing some stuff today that like is already valuable. And so the question is like, where do we position ourselves in the middle there? My guess is that there are some things that we can say with high confidence. I think that if what you are doing is asking a question about a well-mapped area of your business, that soon anyone that can think quantitatively and can translate those quantitative thoughts into natural language will be able to form those questions and ask them of an interface that is powered by the semantic layer, ours or others, that they will be able to get back answers to their questions that are both sensible and correct. Great, that's awesome. Like, I think we should just anticipate that is going to be true. I also think that it is very obviously true that DBT pipelines and therefore analytics engineers and data engineers and data analysts are literally powering AI systems. Like the data that flows through DBT pipelines is very definitely powering AI products and experiences today. So all of this is like super cool. Where do we go from there? Like,
Mm.
I don't know the answer to that yet. I think that there is more to go there. And I think that at the heart of it, it is going to be all about making causal statements and being able to help you interpret like large numbers of signals and rank them from an attentional standpoint. Like one of the problems that all data analysts face is that you can form good questions and then you can look for answers to those questions, but you only have so much time and attention. And what I would love is not just something that could like help me move faster, but that could evaluate 100 different hypotheses and say like, here's the like 5 that I think you should probably spend your time looking into. Not like, here's the answer, but like I looked at 100 things and I think these 5 are interesting. And that is the place that I am personally curious to play around with, not from the very obvious, like immediate term future of like, yeah, we need to do developer productivity and like question and answering experiences, but like that next level.
Got it. Thank you. Makes sense. So
Did that hit the bar for not repetitive of everything you've ever heard on this topic ever?
Well, absolutely. I mean, everyone's talking about it, so I can see you want to definitely answer in your own way, in a way that's personal to you. So that definitely came through. Thank you. So we have a question on how we plan to keep DBT as the standard data transformation tool in the modern data stack, with new competitors like some of them we mentioned before emerging. So yeah, how do we plan to keep ourselves the standard?
Wait, I want to respond to Ian in the chat real quick.
Oh yeah.
Hi Ian. You're like 100% correct about that. AI struggles with correctness, but I don't think AI struggles with correctness when like either nearly as much or maybe at all when plugged into a semantic layer. And so that's why I caveated my answer with like, I don't think that what we're going to be able to do is just like shove all the structured data in your organization into a context window and just like ask arbitrary questions. I also don't think that you're going to be able to just like ask a large language model to like write arbitrary SQL by just like giving it a database schema and expect that you're going to get correct answers. But I really do believe that the semantic layer is an interactive, governed analytic experience. And as long as the flow is large language model to semantic layer to data, then you can trust that the data that you're getting back out is correct. Now it could like translate your question into the wrong semantic query, but like my guess is that like you as a user could probably like that failure is going to be much more spottable to you as a user. You could be like, that's not even the question I asked, as opposed to like the subtle like I wrote the SQL wrong version of it. Anyway, that's my take on that, and Ian, I'm happy to debate this with you in Slack if you feel like I'm off. Keeping DBT the standard. This goes back a little bit to the competition word. There have been a lot of competing takes on DBT over the past 8 years since we've been building this thing. And I don't know. I'm not fundamentally a researcher of network effects or of how things spread or why standards become sticky or any of this stuff. My understanding is that standards emerge because there is a value to a large ecosystem around cohering around a single thing as opposed to multiple things. And it requires, in order for something to be a standard, there have to be like technical reasons for that to be true. But the technical reasons are not the only reason that that is true. Like, so when we talk to big systems integrators, you know, the big four consultant, you know, these types of these firms, the thing that we hear from them is not like, oh, DBT doesn't have X feature. The thing that we hear from them is we can't find enough like really good DBT practitioners to do the amount of work that we would need to like deploy it in this environment. So like this speaks to like the impacts of a standard are like, you also choose standards based on things like, can I find the talent to like do the things that I need to do with a piece of technology? This is why we invest in community. It's you know, the tooling is only half or maybe less of the question of like, how do you standardize around something? That it is the workflow that the thing enables, and it is the humans that know how to do the stuff with the tooling and the workflow that form the three legs of that stool. And I think that if you have all of that stuff working together, then it starts to be pretty sticky. Now, all that said, gosh, I am incredibly mindful of when new approaches to data transformation come out, of like being really, really analytical about what they bring that is advantageous over DBT. And like, we have like very clear burn down lists of like, that's cool. DBT should be able to do that. And we close them down pretty quickly, because I'm not open to the idea that DBT is a standard only because it turns out that like a lot of people know how to use it already. And so, you know, good enough. So like, we very, very definitely need to maintain our technical lead here. But inevitably, new entrants will come out that'll focus on like a specific thing and say like, hey, we're really good at this. And that's probably true. Like, if you focus on a thing, you'll be really good at it.
Right.
But we take that stuff super seriously, and we are continuing to burn those things down. I don't want to get into the specifics of like any of those individual things, but yeah, it's very top of mind for us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We have a question in Slack and another one from Simon in the Goldcast chat, but we're running out of time. So, you know, Tristan will get back to you in Slack, and Simon, please, we'd love to get to that question if you don't mind asking it in Slack. All right. So we'll wrap up. Tristan, thank you so much. So grateful you took the time to meet me and our fellow community members to get our questions answered, get to know you a little bit more, get to know your point of view a little bit more. So we did get a lot of questions in Slack, Goldcast, and Slido that we didn't have time for. So we're definitely going to have you back for another AMA.
Looking forward to it.
So folks, the recording will definitely be available soon. We'll post it this week in the DBT Community Merge channel when it's ready. And lastly, please keep your eyes out for next month's AMA. It will be on August 28th at 5 p.m. Eastern with guest Joel Abes, who is the Senior Developer Experience Advocate on the DX team. And we'll be tackling topics like starting a data team and DBT project from scratch, and exploring the new compare changes functionality in DBT Cloud and more. And that sign up is live. It's on the same landing page you used for today. So thank you so much, Tristan. This has been amazing, and see you all in Slack where you'll get the rest of your questions answered. All right.